Hello, little light. Hello, little light. The light is on, which means we're alive. Hi, everybody. Welcome to ISES Hangouts. So, ISES, if you don't know, and you just haven't been watching this, is the International Special Events Society. We have chapters worldwide, and if you want to learn more about us, you can check us out at ISES.com. So, this week on ISES Hangouts, we are eating our own dog food. And for those of you who don't know what that means, you should look up on Wikipedia. For those of you, no, seriously, it means that you are, it's a software term which generally says you're using your own product for your own purposes to basically prove it. So today we're going to talk about stuff that's internal to ISES, which is kind of new for us, so that should be fun. But I hope you will find it educating and interesting, because we have such a lovely bunch of people to talk about the future of presidency.
Man.
So,
Nobody can hear you.
Maybe back up a little bit.
Okay, all right. So I'm getting directorial notes here. Right.
We can't hear you or understand you.
You can't hear or understand me.
Looks like you're in a wind tunnel.
It's like scratchy and windy.
Sit still.
Okay. All right. This is always exciting. Block break.
Yeah, you got a sweet delay on your voice.
Okay, so how much of that did you guys get? How much of that should I redo?
I hear two of you now. Two of me. I like it. More of me is better.
Oh, there you go.
I can hear two. Can hear two. That may not always be a good thing.
All right.
I've got you, Jay.
Wow. It's I'm dying.
We're going to be editing the beginning of this thing, so for those of you at home, we're all going to be never. Still, it's a good point. So should I start over? Is the question.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, so somebody's not wearing earbuds. We've got a bit of an echo going. Bobby, I think it might be you.
Oh yeah, I'll grab some. Sorry.
And then there's this lovely. So those of you at home, we're going to start the show in just a minute. I know it has been. So Tanya's cat is going to be featured. As the,
I warned you.
Oh, what a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had technical.
This is exactly what being the president of ISIS is like, herding cats.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the whole operation can go south at any moment.
Yep.
That's all that matters. Okay, we're ready to go.
All right, now we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Do it all over
Everybody's
again.
good. Okay, we're going to start all over again. So, hey, look, the live button is up. Which means we are live. Welcome to ISES Hangouts. ISES is the International Special Events Society, and if you want to learn more about us, you can check us out at ISES.com. If you want to work in the event industry, or you work in the event industry and you want to grow your craft and get to interact with really interesting and smart people, it's a great place to go. So this week on ISES Hangouts, we are eating our own dog food. And that is a term that's usually used in software where you're using your own product internally to sort of demonstrate its efficacy. And so today we're going to talk about ISIS stuff in ISIS Hangouts. So if you're not an ISIS member, this may be all crazy chaos to you, but I still recommend sticking around because it's going to be really interesting and fun. Specifically, today we are going to be talking about the way that our board structure works and how we bring in a new president every time. And we're going to take these lovely people who have joined us down below here, and they are all presidents of ISIS or past presidents, and they're going to give wisdom to the incoming throngs of new presidents, which is going to be great. Because we're a member-driven organization, and every year we change our president and change our board over, which is really great because it makes sure there's sort of like no pet projects that survive for no reason. So very soon, we're all bringing in a totally brand new board and a brand new, fresh, squeaky clean, slightly terrified, shiny president in each one of our chapters. And this is happening very soon. Well, actually, depending on when you watch this actually may be happening in the near future. In fact, it may have already happened, but because we do it every year, oh my God, it's happening soon. So there's a lot of learning on the job, and there are great efforts taken to try and make sure these people are well educated before they get into the position. But it is really, really one of my favorite ways of learning things. It's mostly trial by fire, which is great. And so we're going to try and take some of the wisdom of the previous generation, and we're going to try and get it all up on YouTube so it'll be archived and ready for those new presidents to watch and learn from these pros who are now seasoned presidential professionals. So I am once again I'm very lucky to have such a wonderfully smart and insightful group of people who are joining me. There's a parish of potent presidential patrons.
Wow.
I like to practice my alliteration. We have Bobby Dutton, and Bobby Dutton is he's the president of ISES New England, and we have Corinne Kessel, and she is the president of ISES Vancouver, and we have Tanya Newman, who is the past president of ISES Vancouver. So Tanya's going to bring a really interesting perspective because she has now watched Corinne be president for years, so she's going to have some fun criticisms, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we also have Shayla Gabriel, who is our technical coordinator, and then out in the cyberspaces, Emily McDonald is somewhere twittering away on her phone. So, because we could not do the show alone. Oh, and I'm Jay Harmer. I'm one of the directors with ISES Vancouver, and I'm your host. And I today have been the source of all the technical troubles and woes of this show. So, here's the plan. Where I'm going to put our panel in the hot seat and hopefully trigger a solid discussion about what it is like to be president and the things you need to know. And I'm going to see how much smartness I can extract from their brains for as long as they can stand it. I know Tanya might have to bail out early, but hopefully I can keep Corinne and Bobby going for a little longer. And we, of course, would always love to hear from you. So you can communicate with us in a myriad of ways. There is the QA application, which runs through Google+. There is email. You can email us at hangouts@isesvancouver.com. And you can also Twitter us using the hashtag ISES Hangouts. So please send your comments, tweets, and emails and questions, and because we love to interact with you, and we love to hear what you think and what we should be asking our panel. So let's get started. So I've got a question for all three panelists, and I'm going to go in order. So in the spirit of Sleeping Beauty, as you three are the fairy godmothers of the next presidents coming in, each of you is able to bestow a habit or a gut instinct or a superpower on them with your magic wand. So I want to go through everybody and find out what would it be? What would be the thing that you would give them? And don't make it like the ability to wish for more wishes, because that's just crazy. Okay, so I'm going to start with Bobby. Bobby, as a fairy godmother, what would you?
Okay, I guess I would give them the ability to take a step back and see things from a broader perspective all the time. And the reason I say that is it can be easy to get caught up in one very specific detail that needs to get taken care of for the chapter. But as presidents, it's our job to think long-term health, big picture strategy, and then entrust and empower the board to go and actually solve these things with the help of their committees.
I love that.
So
that's great. Okay, so from fairy godmother Bobby Dutton, we have the ability to big picture perspective. So that's fantastic. Corinne, you're up next. Oh, I love your tiara.
I'm the fairy godmother. I think it's being able to right up front. I think the important thing to do is create clear roles and expectations right at the very beginning.
Okay, expectation, the power of super expectation management. Love it. Tanya?
I personally feel it should be being able to see into the future.
All right. So we have bird's eye view. We have expectation management skills, and we also have precognizance. So crystal ball from 30,000 feet with management powers is what the Sleeping Beauty is going to get. Okay, that's great. So that's fantastic. So my next question then, and I want to direct this one actually at Corinne. Corinne, Was there an incident or an event which made it very clear that you were now sitting in the captain seat? Were there like point where you're like, oh, I am in control of this thing, or supposed to be in control of this thing?
The board retreat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so the board retreat, for those who don't know, it's the event that happens where you bring your new board together and with pieces of your old board, and then everybody sort of talks what's happening in the next year. Bobby, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree. It's when you sit down with that first blank document to make an agenda for your first retreat or meeting or program, and you've got the expertise of last year's counterpart, thanks to the guidance of the immediate past president. But at the same time, it's on you to put your mark on it and steer the ship in a new way. Put your you don't want to just repeat last year. You want to learn from last year and decide how it's going to go. And it's interesting to see that power for the first time.
So, and what about you, Tanya? Was where was the point where oh, I'm in charge of this thing?
It was a retreat. That's very true. I just planning it and putting it up and having everybody sit at a table and look at me and go, okay, so fearless leader, what next?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So nobody had an experience of denial. It was very clear where it was like, all right, I'm now the captain. All right. Well, when you guys were sitting down at the board at your retreat, or for the first time, when you're starting to plan out what's going to happen, how far ahead are you trying to plan? Are you trying to bank stuff for like 10 years in the future? 2 years in the future? Are you just trying to get through the next 4 months? Like how do you set your sights?
I know we developed a strategic plan, right? So we tried to develop one. I developed one with Corrine, and then Corrine, like a 3-year plan, and then Corrine took that and she tweaked and implemented and made changes, and then we hope that it will soon get passed on to Shelley, because you sort of have to have a bit of a look into the future, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I know for sure. But I'm just trying to are you? So you're thinking like when you were planning like 3 years in advance.
Yeah, like when you're doing, specifically at that board retreat. Like that board retreat is for the bigger picture, for the long term, for developing. Yep. It's purely for developing the board first, and then developing the strategic plan, which at the end of that meeting you're talking about the bigger picture, the long-term goals, and then immediately following that, like within the same month, you have your committees that go and break out, and then they're dealing with the monthly, the smaller, minute, and they might be just doing the next
I'm just trying to get an idea, like when you sit down to plan, like how far ahead are you thinking, like when you're doing this planning? So it's basically, we're saying like 3 years is sort of what everybody's aiming for. Bobby, is that consistent with your?
Yeah, there's definitely some future stuff. I think it's neat because you look at groups like this, volunteer-driven organizations. Some of them don't look beyond the scope of 1 year, and obviously that's not ideal. But it's easy to say, oh, cool, it's a new year, day one. Let's start with a blank piece of paper and
that is a terrible
figure out what we're gonna do. Then the next version is you see people that are making 3-year and 5-year plans, and that's good. What I notice though is I don't very often see people that say, cool, we're on year 3 or 4 of the 5-year plan that was made a while ago. Exactly. Almost never. Everyone's at the beginning of some broad strategic plan.
So that was going to be my next question. So with your experience, so you guys everybody's banked 1 year with this, and Tanya, of course, has banked 2 in her presidential function. Like how far ahead did it actually provide value to this long future thing? Do you feel like that there is a thing that sort of that you have elevated and will now continue to go up, or does it sort of feel like, and I got it up to here and then it's going to restart?
The best specific tool for carrying on knowledge for the long term, we have the SOP, which is the Standard Operating Procedures, and that's a big long document. Everything has to get voted in by the current board. People can propose changes to it, and that's everything from stipends to cover travel for board members to ISES Live to how we're going to price monthly meetings and everything in between, even the definition of roles and responsibilities. So that document gets handed to the incoming president, and that's one of the big readings you need to do. And I think that's the best way for knowledge to truly get handed down, and then you can sort of create your theme and your twist for the year without losing that, because it exists formally.
How do you make sure the stuff that's in there, how do you make sure that the board understands like how that stuff is fitting into this 20-year scope of presidents?
Well, I mean, I think to focus on a 20-year plan would be not nearly reactive enough for the world we're in.
No, of course. I'm just trying to, like, how do you grant, maybe that was a bad way to put it. I'm just like, how do you grant perspective to your board so that, because you've read this thing, they will have said they've read that thing, they haven't read it. And how do you get them to, how do you still get it into their brains that this is all part of a graph that's going upwards? And these are all improvements upon improvements.
Right. Well, I think that having the immediate past president involved in the board is a really important thing because you can see it right there at every meeting. There's past, present, and future all the time. So that between that and the document of the SOP, that's your continuity right there.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I mean, from my perspective as a board member, Tanya has been a powerhouse. She is just so proactive, and she's really good at bringing the continuity from her administration. I'm not sure what the proper term is. From her era as president. Yeah, from her, it's really been great at maintaining carryover. And so from being on a board in that experience, it's actually been fantastic because it definitely gives a better perspective on the sort of the bigger scope.
Can I jump in for one sec just in saying
yes.
that? And I appreciate that just because I got about 5 minutes. I didn't have my past president, so unfortunately my past president just, and this happens. There is a burnout factor.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a 3-year term. You're president-elect, you're president, and then your immediate past president, and not all feel that they can stay on. And then there are unfortunately some presidents, and I have seen this in other chapters, where they simply do not want their immediate past president to stay on because they want it to be their show. And I think that this is where the strategic plan and this is where the continuity and the looking into the future comes into play, because there was some transition for me. It was hard at first to let go, I will admit that, and it was sort of trying to find my way and let Corrine be the face of the chapter and stand back from all of that. And it took, a month or two to sort of get my gears, and then I finally realized, wow, I can have input, I can give feedback, I can provide insight, but I don't have to administrate the chapter, and that's her job now. So it did take a bit, and but I wanted to be there for her because she was very involved in my year. Like we were a team going through this, and then being on the board for 5 years, with her, we were able to sort of really develop. And I think that's important because when you said earlier about the turnover, that is a challenge. And that, just like what Bobby said, then there's a lot of people that are starting at ground zero again because that is turnover, and it is hard sometimes because if your immediate past president decides to walk, then it is hard to fulfill those those 3-year plans when you sort of almost feel like you're starting from scratch because your board has completely turned over.
Well, I think that's a fantastic summary about the value of legacy and about having those people be involved. And so you always have this sort of like 3-tiered layer of the newbie, the acolyte and the seasoned pro working together, and then everybody sort of, one person leaves, then you bring in a new newbie. And it's everybody's job to help educate them. So I think that's a really good point.
Well, it also benefits the chapter and the member.
Of course.
The continuity, and you see the development, and it isn't just about this whole new structure changing everything every time. It needs to be this constant chugging train that is moving forward as opposed to going 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That actually deters the growth of the chapter. So the stronger your leaders and the stronger the leaders can work together for 3 years, then the easier it'll be.
I think that's great. Are you able to stick around a little longer, or do you have to?
You know what? So on that note, I will bid my adieu. My cat and I will go into the future, and I will go make some children happy. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, Tanya.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Right.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Now I just get to pick on you guys. All right. So that was good. So actually, this really leads to my next question. what do you guys have for mentors? Is there like, do you exclusively go to the past president, or do you have like mentors, coaches, role models, champions outside of that?
In New England, I definitely lean on Katie Cole, who's our immediate past president. We have these, we call them trifecta meetings, which is the past president, and president-elect, and we'll go do lunch once a month or every month or two, and those are really helpful.
Yeah.
I also lean a lot on some of our members that are very involved internationally. So we're lucky to have Judy Brillhart and Stephen Way and a lot of Board of Governors representation. They're like our go-to nominating committee people or big picture people, and that's really helpful for us.
Green, what about you?
For us, definitely we had, it was all the, I mean, the past presidents around in Vancouver. I mean, they've all been very active and supportive, and you can always, go to them for questions. And we've had a few ISES Canada past presidents that are very knowledgeable and helpful in Vancouver. And then we would do monthly presidents calls for all of the presidents in ISES Canada. Right. So that was super helpful for us.
Focused internally then, where it's like the resources that were available were good for you.
Sorry, I can hear you.
The resources that were available, like within ISIS and the ISIS president calls and things like that, that was good support for you. You didn't really need to go outside of it. So,
well, I mean, you do and you don't. I mean, in terms of developing myself, as, as a person, but a lot of the issues, the things that are coming up are really, a lot of it's ISIS specific. So it's not. I mean, it is general leadership as well, but a lot of the things that were sort of coming up were support. Like what you'd be looking for was something like specifically within everybody was sort of having the same struggle. So even if it was Vancouver or Toronto or wherever, it was interesting to see what were ISIS specific things and then what were regional. And so by having our group, which was interesting, it was just sort of neat to see we could really separate. It's like, okay, this is something that's ISIS centric, or this is something that this has to do with Vancouver. And then yes, it would sort of make you look outside and just sort of see, and then talk to other organizations like, hey MPI, we're having problems doing this. Are you having the same problems? Or FIPA. So there's other organizations. So I would sort of look and talk to people within other sort of related but similar organizations that were local to Vancouver, right? So because there's certain things where why are we struggling? Well, it's because we don't have a lot of head offices here, so it's a different market, different landscape.
Okay, so
yeah. That's a really good point too. As presidents, part of our job is to be the link between the chapter and ISIS International and the region in between. We talk a little bit about the risk of isolation, which is both in terms of time. It would be easy for us to not benefit from last year and next year and the big picture plan, but also it would be easy for our whole chapter to have a year of existence with our members never even connecting beyond the chapter, with knowing what the International Association is. So that's really important for us to be able to come to a board meeting or a program and say, hey, we just talked to these people in Vancouver. Here's what's going on up there. Like, this may be relevant to your role in the industry, both to our board members and to our members in general.
Yeah, because I think that was important for me in my year. That's what I did a lot of championing for, was to educate our members that it's not just the group of us locally, because a lot of people didn't know. They didn't know that it wasn't just like this local group of people, and it's about those people in the room, and other than past board members that knew of the bigger organization. So that was a big part of what we were doing, is getting people aware of that you're part of this something bigger, and the real benefit of ISIS is not necessarily, I mean, it is from the people that are in the room at the meetings, but it's also about leveraging the global connections that you have.
Okay, so not only are you guys having the resources to play on with these other organizations, it's also giving you sort of a sense of that you're not alone when you communicate with these other groups and say like, hey, these are my problems. They go, hey, I got problems too. And then you go like, hey, we're all in this together. Like, does it also help sort of shore you up? Dare I say that you use the term spiritually? That it helps sort of with the morale and with the challenges. You think like, you can talk to these groups and you're like, yeah, we're all in this together.
Absolutely. I mean, the perspective is really important, and we talked a little bit earlier about the importance of defining the roles and responsibilities, and it really is our job to see the big picture, both internationally and regionally, define the roles for other people within our board, and then empower them to go and focus on those scopes effectively.
Yeah, nice. All right, I got another question. What did you guys find was the hardest part about delegating to a board of volunteers? What was the hardest part?
How to enforce.
Yes. So how do you do that? How did you guys enforce to a board of volunteers like this? Hey, guy, do this now.
I mean, honestly, the hardest part, I don't want to use the term tough love, but knowing that to do it for them or say it's okay that they didn't do something that was clearly put on somebody's plate, you don't do it for them. You see what happens and you say, okay, like that didn't get done, and nobody's going to step in and take care of it for you. Everyone else is volunteers too.
Right. So
I
it's
think
you really want, like, you're treating them like adults. Like if they're going to fail, you let them fail. If they come ask for help, you'll help them.
It can be very tempting to enable and say, all right, well, I'm the president, I'll get in there. Yeah, I'll be on your committee. Yeah, I'll call all of our members and ask them to renew. Yeah, I'll do the auction, and that helps Band-Aid things in the short term. But
how do you fight those urges? How do you fight those urges to Band-Aid?
Just personally, I would much rather direct than manage.
Yeah.
And I think a president is much better leveraged from a directing standpoint, and you can see people that fall into too much of a management or micromanagement role, and you can see them lose the big picture. And I think the big picture is too important for that.
Nice. And man, that is a really important nuance. Corinne, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think?
I felt this year it was good. Like we didn't really have like in years previous we've had sort of problems with board burnout, and I think this year we didn't. Like everybody was engaged right to the end, and I think yes, it's a volunteer board, but everybody was working hard. So I think it would be really hard for anyone to hide and not contribute equally to everybody else, because everybody was working so hard and everybody was engaged, and we all were sort of, I think, working towards common goals. And things weren't done perfectly. Like things weren't done. There was events I would have liked more people to come to, or things done a little bit differently, or whatever. But something was always done, and that was great. And for me, it was really about, like, same as Bobby. I wanted to be able to live, like, it was really about the succession planning, getting people involved and able to do what they needed to do, so that it just existed without me having to do it. Because if I was the one that went and saved everything all the time, I'm gone next year. Now I've set up the chapter for disaster, right? So it's like, as long as it gets done and people know what to do, and sure, if we had done certain things and sort of I jumped in and did more, it could have perhaps been better. But it's like I had to spread my attention between all of the portfolios and support everybody. And so for me, it really came down to there's only so much I could give, and so I couldn't. It wasn't possible for me to jump in and save everything or do other things. It was really about my boundaries too. That it was. I would enable people. I would help them find more people to help them, but I couldn't necessarily just step in and help them myself. And
man, I just got a quiver of follow-up questions to what you just said.
Okay,
so when dealing with projects that are going sideways, how do you leverage assistance for that project to keep it on board and on track without fixing it yourself? How do you leverage the rest of your resources to try and help that project that's failing?
For me, it's always about just helping by looking at it and getting helping like the board members see what the bigger picture is and what is irrelevant. So I would just sort of go through and say, okay, so this is sort of what we need to do, and give them the plan and help them with that, and then they would have to go and execute.
You can refocus and triage.
Exactly, and so it wasn't about me necessarily doing it. Yeah, there is, in certain cases, there's things I would, I would cheerlead, or I'd make the call, or it would, a message coming from me, but they would give me the message that they want me to send, or they would do certain things, that would still require them to do the work, right? And I can help where, by me making an extra touch or me doing something extra instead of doing it.
So then you're not like taking directors and saying like, hey, director, you get over there and you help that VP or anything like that. You're just, you will.
You can, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, I would, yeah, if needed, or we would try and find volunteers, or, pull somebody, off of, I would, a lot of times, the president-elect, I would rely on the president-elect. I would redirect her towards the Ailing project to help support them, because that's also the role of the president-elect, and that's what I did last year as well for Tanya. It was like Tanya kept going on with the bigger picture things, and then I would go in and be the nuts and bolts helper for that. So I did rely on Shelley. If there was like a membership campaign that needed support, she would go in and help with that, or if there was like the ETU program that needed support, she would go in and help with that. So we would kind of I would use her because she was sort of almost like a floating position. That's so it helps her to learn and prepares her for success by knowing how to fix and help these people. So to help, in turn, helping her development to set her up to like what to expect becoming the president as well.
That sounds great. Bobby, what do you think? You want to?
I think the most important thing we can do to help in those situations is to protect the structure of the leadership, and what that means is if somebody at a board meeting says, oh, we need some help on this thing, you don't help because we're the board, but we'll say we'll be on your committee. When's the committee meeting? Even if it's the same faces, but you need to protect this sort of, I call it the front wheel, back wheel strategy, and I learned about that at my first regional leadership retreat. And it was explained to me as you always need to be aware of which wheel you're on. Are you on the front wheel of the bike, steering things and deciding where you're going, or are you on the back wheel, pedaling along and getting it done? And board meetings should always be front wheel with respect to the whole chapter. And then even at the VP level, everybody should have front wheel decisions that they're saying, okay, well, membership is doing this. We're dividing the membership into 10 lists, and our committee is going to go and call everybody on their piece of the list. That's the membership back wheel, which happens at a membership committee meeting led by the membership VP. So if we need to assign people, we need to route people to those committees to get the support they need, but emphasize that structurally speaking, that's back wheel work at the committee level that needs to get done. How are we going to get it done together?
That's great. Okay, cool. I think there's some really good advice. That's fantastic. Okay, so how do you? So you got all these back wheels and front wheels in your board structure. How do you keep an eye on what people are doing with their projects and not feel like a seagull manager? How do you maintain awareness for what's going on, but not get in and fiddle with people's stuff? How do you do that?
We do reports, VP reports. So every month, VPs all send a written report. There's a template. It typically looks pretty similar, but that has all the the key updates, like how many members do we have, how many student members do we have, what's the status of all the projects you told us you were working on, and a lot of that is open enough for them to decide how they're doing their work, but accountable enough to make sure they're telling us what's going on.
Right. Okay. So you a standard, just like a standard up the chain reporting. That's like, here's what's going on. What about you, Kareen? You anything a little different?
What was the question?
How do you keep an eye on the committees and the projects without interfering?
The monthly reports happen, and then at the beginning of the year, because like the president is officially a member of all committees. So I would, at the beginning of the year, I would go attend a lot of the committee meetings, and the president's supposed to be notified of any committee meetings that happen. So that was a good way to sort of just keep on track. And it was like not that I was voting to do anything or involved, but just sort of making sure that those meetings were happening, because if those meetings were happening, then people were doing things. So more or less just sort of making sure that the VPs were holding their committee meetings.
Right. So show up as an observer, read the paperwork they send you. That's the okay. Will sound good. Now that it's just about over, now that you guys are almost done your term, when you think back over the past year, like what do you think is going to be a surviving good memory of your experience? What do you think, like in 5 years, and be like, man, and then we did this, and oh, that felt good.
ISIS Hangouts.
Nice, right answer. Internet high five.
In all seriousness,
What?
for me,
Green?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The keeping action happening beyond the chapter is the biggest thing I wanted to leave our chapter with this year. It's through my own experience. I joined in 2008, and there was a stretch where I said, all right, well, I can pay and come and have a glass of wine and shake the hands of the same 40, 50 people I've shook their hands last week, and I'm aware of you, you're aware of me, great. Let me know if anything comes up.
That's not good, man. Hey, guy.
and that's not ISIS at all. And I think too many of our members think of it as a chapter organization. So I love that we're posting on our Facebook page. Hey, look at ISIS Hangouts. Vancouver's hosting it. Our president's chatting on it right now, and you're part of something much bigger.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Man, could I not ever agree with you more? That's awesome. There's Corinne, please.
My biggest memory is yet to come, actually. It's going to be ISES Live in Seattle. I think that was my goal from day one, is to get my board and the chapter, like Bobby said, to be aware of the larger community that's ISIS International. And when I show up there, instead of it just being me, going to the ISIS leadership meetings, and I show up and there's going to be 12 of us, and then more people from the chapter showing up, that's going to be my proudest, and because I've gone to so many leadership things where it's just me, and then there's like all the other people in the world there, and it's just I'm the only Vancouver person, and this is going to be that's what I think is going to be the coolest thing, is to see all of us down there. I'm happy it's in Seattle, so it's nice and close, and there's no excuses, and that's going to be the highlight for me for sure.
All right, I'm gonna hold you that. We're gonna do a recap.
Do it, yeah.
This is live. Find out how to go.
I'll do one down there with all of us in our Seattle friends.
Yeah. I'll be all beat up and dirty from West Coast Trails. All right, so I have a tougher question for you, and I want to start with Corinne on this one. Was there a point that you were that you felt demoralized? Like, where there was a point where you were like, oh my God, this is all just, oh God, I can't do this. There's no way I can fix this thing. I'm gonna look like an idiot. This is all my fault. I ruined Christmas. Hey, did you ever get to that point? You did?
I got to.
You don't have to tell me specifically what it was.
No, but I got to a point where I felt like definitely it was there were sort of things unraveling a bit, and it was purely because of me, and not that I couldn't fix it. It just meant that I would have to have. I just had to sort of step back and really approach it from almost from a a business sense, because it is a volunteer organization, but it is also, ISIS is a business, and there's real sort of legal structures and things that that we're responsible for, and the membership that we're accountable to, and so then it was really about stepping back, and then instead of just sort of talking about, just doing something about it, and really dealing with the people one-on-one, and really being clear, and back to just being clear and explaining and having the difficult conversations and fixing it, and then everything turned around, and it was great. So it was nothing that was public or anybody would have noticed or that you would have told from anything, but it was just sort of on the back end. There was just sort of a little bit of tension, and instead of just sort of ignoring it, it was things that you could bury or ignore or push, And so it wasn't anything that even other board members would have known about, but it was just things that I had to, you know, instead of avoiding the conflict or avoiding the conversation, I just had to, you know, pull up my big girl panties and have that. And everything went great out of it. So yeah, but it was that was why I wanted to be the president, to be able to learn how to do that better and how to have influence on people, not because I'm their boss and I can fire them. You know, how to encourage and fix problems because I'm a strong leader.
So I'm going to go with, so that was actually my follow-up question that you totally answered in there. Hang on a second. See if that's any better. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No? Maybe? Sort of?
Yes.
Can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Yes?
I can
No?
hear you.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Way better.
Bloody thing. I know, I've been told that I'm crackly.
You are crackly.
See if I can't fix this thing. In this headset.
Oh, yeah.
Reasons.
Wow, where did that golden
Oh
throat
my
come from?
goodness.
Hey there. Am I better now?
Way better.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I just
You
gotta wear
should
this
have done
dorky
that half
headset.
an hour ago,
Apparently.
buddy.
You what?
You should have done that half an hour ago.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got to tell me if I'm crackly. Okay. Welcome back to ISES Hangouts. All right. So there were two parts in there that I really wanted to that you really covered for me. So the idea that there were moments that it was demoralizing, and then ultimately it was just about toughing through it, and that actually you managed to deal with it in the long term. Would you say it pretty much turned out to be nothing? Like it was just like you were demoralized, it was a problem, and you just ground through it. Bobby, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah. I had one where I had an awesome idea that was pushing the envelope. It was something we had never done before. It was this video project. It involved spending money and producing these results. It was called our Spotlight series. Cool. And it was a little out there because the idea was not to showcase existing members to existing members. Mm-hmm. It was to showcase the industry, which certainly would include members sometimes, but that wasn't the point. It was to go out and say, look how amazing this world of special events is here in Boston. We're the New England International Special Events Society, so we're going to go and find these things. And if it happens to be members, great. If not, we're still going to showcase it for the good of the industry, which in turn will benefit everybody.
Yeah,
and
sounds
that's
good to me.
Part of the and I really believed in this, and I thought this was something unique, and I was excited. I actually personally funded the first pilot episode of this and said, if you guys don't vote to support this, that's fine. I'll eat it. But I bet you will, because it's going to be awesome. So at our retreat, I showed the first episode and said, should we decide to move forward with this as a chapter, this could be a really cool thing. And it did work out. We ended up shooting 4 episodes, and the board did approve it. We did fund it. It's been great results. International's excited about it. Nice. But in between, there was a step where I didn't do a good enough job explaining to the board why this was a good thing and why this was a big picture important step, and get the board 100% behind it. So even though we voted on it, we voted the budget into existence, we approved it together, I kind of took this as the blessing and then went off running with my little pet project.
Right.
And I think it's important for us to remember that we are not a voting member of the board, and the board is the leadership of this chapter. Right. So there was a step missing where I needed to say, guys, I believe in this. Let me try to tell you why and see if you guys are all on the same page. And there was some feedback that got worked in later that said, okay, well, we need to watch out for A, B, and C, and explain this part to me again. And okay, now we're all on the same page. But there was a step where there was a disconnect where I said, you elected me the leader of this. I've got a cool idea.
Yeah.
Check
We're going.
Yeah. And
oh wait, there's a procedure.
Right.
Nice. Well, I think those are both awesome stories. I think those are great. Thanks, guys. All right. So things have been a little off the rails today in regards to technology, and it is all my fault. So I just want to see how much time, Corrine and Bobby, how much time do you guys have left? Do you want to do another 10 minutes?
Sure.
Corrine, is that good for you? Okay. Yep. All right. So I had a question for you. You said something earlier about expectation management. I want to get all over that. All right.
Is our business, is our business as an ISES chapter, are we content delivery and subscription sales, or are we something bigger than that?
I'm trying to quote the ISIS brand story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good question. Jeez, I think it's not quite what people think it is on the surface, and it's important to get members over that hump where they start to see the value of being part of this network and what it really means to be part of this world. So I think it's more than the subscription thing.
Yeah.
The challenge on
the sum of its parts.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. Well, let me answer that by looking at the different types of new members. When you're at a monthly meeting and you see somebody walk in for the first time and you introduce yourself and say, hi. There are people that come in and have their little stack of business cards and they say, cool, I am going to walk out of here with 3 new clients so I can tell my boss ISIS has paid for itself. We're getting the ROI. Yeah. We have grown immediately as a business because of our membership in this thing.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. Box checked.
Those people are generally disappointed, and they often don't stick around very long.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting even to look at some presidents. Like, if you ask any of us how much direct business we've taken out of it, like for number of shows or events or dollar amount, there's probably an answer there, but we're not really thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because the ROI is such a big picture machine evolution of an industry that we're not going home and adding a tally to our list every time we need to know why we're part of ISIS.
Yeah. Nice. Good answer. So okay. So Corinne, I'd like you to take a swing at that too, if you've got anything you want to add.
Yeah, I agree with Bobby. I mean, it's definitely the people that are looking for the immediate payback out of it. I mean, it can happen. Like we've had a lot of new venues join as members this year as an example. And so then they get featured, and we'll do an event there, and they get the people, and then they book the space, and that does happen, but that's not all what ISIS is or can be. Yeah. And so then if the next year that nobody books a space or an event doesn't happen there, like Bobby said, it's like then they're not as engaged because they haven't seen or given back or been involved to really see the bigger picture, to see the connections, to see how they can give back to the industry and how it all sort of comes together. Like, how do I put an ROI on being seen as an expert now?
Yeah. I can't wait to summarize this.
Right, like, so it's even I'm not like, just for me, people will now call me from Toronto, from Florida, from Georgia, from LA, from anywhere. They're coming to Vancouver, and they want to know what space is suitable for this, who's the right caterer for me, who's the right this, who's the right that, tell me who I need to work with, and how do they're not coming to me for my fake plans. They're coming to me as being an expert on the industry, and to me that's how do you put a value on that? Like, it's that's what it's all about, and for me to know those answers, because I do know my local market, and for me to know my international colleagues well enough to know who to recommend to them. So it's about having this whole huge network, and then it does come back, and then it does come back to me, but it's more indirect how I do get the business, and I can't put the dollar figure on what has come to me through ISIS, and I threw it up on a screen a year ago. It was like $387,000 or something like that. So it's you can put numbers on it, but it's
right.
So much more.
So I'm gonna try and sum up what you guys just covered there. So the idea is that yes, ISIS is content delivery and a subscription service, but there is a personal development component which is entirely fed by how much you put into ISIS. And so that not only do you get to grow your business as being a part of it, you get to grow yourself, you get to grow your skills, and you get to grow the footprint that your expertise encompasses. And this is really hinged on how much people invest personally into what the organization is capable of. Did I cover it?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. And the result is such an important thing, because when Corinne gets that referral back later, it's going to be the perfect matched client because somebody says, oh, I have the perfect person for this very specific thing you just asked for. And then the industry gets better, the world gets better, they get a better product, Corrine gets the right business.
Yeah.
And
Everybody wins.
Everyone wins.
Everybody wins. All right. So I'm going to get time for one last question. So this is going to be hard. Okay, I know which one. So as the president of an ISES chapter, what did you find you could actively do to grow the relationships within the board for them to be effective? What did you find was that you could do that would help them develop the relationships that would make them a better board?
In New England, we have an internal secret Facebook group that we use all the time for board chatter in between meetings, and that's been successful.
Yeah.
And then the other one is just a more general, applaud success always.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to kind of tactfully encourage people to want that success to be rewarded.
Yeah. Yeah. So visible praise, a good communication channel. What else do you do to help them learn to like each other or learn to work together better? What are those things that you personally do with the board? Corrine?
I don't know about me personally, but I think we had well, I guess as a good leader, I delegated this task to Kevin White. And so when Kevin White came to town, he did basically, it was almost like a getting to know and like your board. We did a little workshop, and that was great. And getting people to know just interesting facts about each other, just to show, we did a little exercise to show what we did and didn't know about each other, and then found out all kinds of cool new things about each other that sort of had more to do with us as people and less of us as, Corrine from Greenscape or Corrine as the president and just Corrine as the person. And that was super helpful to like each other as people and find these deeper interests and things that, would make us know and understand each other. We've also done, back at the board retreat, and we've done it a few times throughout the year, we'll just do basically like a little temperature check, and we've just sort of quickly gone around the room and said, like what's going on personally and what's going on in life. If people are like, yeah, I'm swamped right now, so then you might know why they're not answering your emails as much. Or we've also done why.
Here, I'm going to help you answer this question. One of the things that you do as a leader that helps the board support each other better is that you literally put down whatever it is you're doing and you answer our questions and our calls and stuff. Like that is something that I think helps us be reminded that when other people come to us that we need to take time to respond to their things. So I'm gonna help give you that one. That was sort of the kind of idea that.
That's the answer you're looking for.
That was the answer I was looking. Well, it's so it's funny when you ask questions like that because I know that what I'm asking you is to identify personal habits that you've been developing as a leader over the years and what helps an external group of people behave. And so I'm gonna give you that one because that is definitely. Speaking as someone who's been on the board, future presidents, that the fact that my president takes time for my shenanigans and will put down what she's doing even though she's busy and address my shenanigans is it helps reinforce for me that it's important for me to get back to somebody with gift certificates about something or they need help with a particular thing or that for me it was very effective. So I get to talk the most because it's my show. I think we should wrap it up there unless you guys want to add anything else. Honestly, I've got like another 40 minutes of questions, but I feel like we're sort of we're probably close to an hour, and I put you guys through all kinds of shades of terror with my horrible technology today, and so I'm going to wrap it up unless you guys want to, anything else you want to add in.
No, that's great.
Okay, perfect. Are there any books, leadership books, that you'd recommend people read?
Oh, same ones from our last hangout, I guess.
Yeah.
There's the Creating Magic by Lee Cockrell, who is
nice.
About the Disney evolution, and Good to Great by Jim Collins, and Great by Choice by Jim Collins.
Corrine, what do you got?
A good one. There's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Was a good one. And then there was another one. It's called Crucial Conversations. I'm just looking it up right now. I read that one for me personally. That was a good one. So that's Crucial Conversations. Carrie. It was a group of them: Carrie Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and then there's another one in that series, Crucial Conversations, and then there's another Conversations one. Same series. That was for me. That was about exactly what I had to deal with in the year. It was like how to have the difficult conversations and turn that around and make it effective, and how to do it in a positive way.
Nice. And I'm going to tack on two of my own. One is called The Happiness Advantage. It's a short read. It's all about it's all about the bonus of having happy members and happy workers. So yeah, Happiness Advantage and Mistakes Were Made Not by Me, which teaches you all about how people screw up and how you're supposed to forgive them and how it's hard to. Okay, so once again, as the host, I'm left with the last word. I would like to thank you, audience, for watching, and for those of you who are incoming presidents, I wish you the best of luck. I would very much like to thank our lovely panel for not only being the smartest, but the handsomest bunch of people on Hangouts on Air, which is our unique distinction, as was voted by the ISES Hangouts poll, which was done 7 minutes ago. Our panelists today were Bobby Dutton from ISES New England. He is the president out there, and he is with Guru Boston. He's a lovely gentleman. He's very helpful, and you can find his Twitter down in the thing down there, and in his lower third. And we also had Corinne Kessel, who's the president of ISES Vancouver with Greenscapes. I believe her Twitter is probably also in her lower third. We also had Tanya Newman with CharityCorps. She's the former president of ISES Vancouver. We have Shayla Gabriel, who sat there quietly and managed to try to keep my crackly volume under control. And we have Emily McDonald, who's way out in cyberspace, is likely part of the machine. She's the Twitter machine behind this whole activity. And I am Jay Harmer. I am a director with ISES Vancouver, and I'm your host. So thank you so much. Of course, thank you so much to the team, and thank you to the panel, and thank you so much to our viewers. Everybody within ISES is really friendly and helpful, and new presidents coming in, you already know this. I think you are probably welcome to tweet at our lovely panel and ask them other questions. I'm sure they would be more than happy to answer them. I'm speaking for you guys. I hope you're good with that. So if you're a little bashful, you can connect with ISES Vancouver through @isesvancouver.com. On Twitter, you can email us at hangouts@isesvancouver.com. ISES is the International Special Events Society. We have chapters worldwide. If you want to be involved in the event industry, or want to grow your own, want to have personal development as an event pro, we're a great bunch of people to be involved with. So check us out at ISES.com. So head on to that subscribe button, which I'm positive this time is over there. I hope, and it might be over there. And subscribe. And we're trying to crank out an episode about once every 2 weeks. And so everyone, please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again for joining us, and say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.